Hi everyone, it's Trisha from Tribe2Village. Thank you for joining. This is our tribe, our village, our family. And today we're joined by the wonderful Genevieve Thevenin. Hi Genevieve.
Hi, thank you so much for having me at Tribe2Village.
Of course. Now, Genevieve, aka Jenny, is a college readiness manager, and she's an amazing daughter, sister, friend, and she pours into all of her family members, her friends, and all of her students so much so that sometimes she forgets to pour into herself.
Mm,
And that has also contributed to a battle with depression. So,
yes.
Jenny, thank you so much for being here. And could you just share with us when did you know you were depressed?
That's a great question, thankfully. And I had been in therapy because that is something I do for my mental health. That is something that has been fruitful for me in the past. So I was seeking it. I cannot recall what made me initially seek it, but I had been in it for a few months before the peak of my depression. And I knew I was depressed because the clinician had suggested that based on what I had been telling her, based on how I was coping, she felt like I was functionally depressed. Yes, I was doing all of the things I needed to do in terms of my responsibilities,
Mm-hmm.
going to work. I was even working out like 3 to 4 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
But it took her to shed light onto my situation and my mental state. As you mentioned, where as Black women and for myself, I was taking so much care of everybody else and thinking about everything going on around me at the time and wanting to do the best in my position that I didn't realize I was struggling and
Mm-hmm.
struggling really badly.
If you don't mind sharing, what were your symptoms? Because you said that you were exercising, you were doing all the things that you were supposed to do. So what did she say that were your symptoms for depression?
She didn't come outright and just tell me I was depressed. One
Mm-hmm.
day she told me I was angry, and I didn't understand that because I didn't see that for myself. And that's again where the key of someone else on the outside looking in, shedding light for you and offering you a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically showed me that I was frustration is a low form of anger, but I was extremely frustrated. And I wasn't able to release that frustration through the methods that I was doing, like going to the gym, and in therapy is when I was just now understanding that I was in this state. She started very small with me, just like breaking down what I was feeling at the time. And that was really helpful to take that close look at
Mm-hmm.
my emotions, having a tough time. But it took all those pieces,
Mm-hmm.
friends telling me that I was having a tough time, but also this clinician walking me through it by
Mm-hmm.
starting very small and opening it up for me to see how my experiences were impacting my mental condition and how, in a way, I was deflecting from addressing those things.
That is so deep. Something you mentioned earlier that you weren't able to release your feelings through the things that you were doing. And it just reminds us that depression has many different faces.
Mm-hmm.
So you could see someone who comes to work and they have this face where they're happy and it looks like everything is going okay, when really on the inside they're internalizing all the pain and suffering and sadness. So you never really know. You
Mm-hmm.
can't really judge a book by its cover, but was there ever a time where through your journey with depression that you were like, whoa, Jenny, you need to go get help. You need to get help beyond your therapist.
Absolutely. And at the time, because of how I was experiencing my experiences, how I was internalizing them, I ended up calling a friend and letting them know how I was feeling. And my friend suggested that I make an emergency appointment with my therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that.
So just for clarification, when you called your friend and let them know how you were feeling, can you elaborate on that? Did you call up your friend and was like, oh, I'm feeling a little down? Or did you have a plan, an actual plan?
Great point. So I didn't have a plan,
Thinking.
but I was thinking about it, and I knew, and I was thinking about it very deeply. So I knew that the next steps could be that I do formulate a plan and that I do act out on it. And at that point, I did want to protect myself. I'm like, okay, I know that I'm suffering. I know that I'm going through a lot. I must reach out to somebody. And sometimes that's the hardest point. People don't want to open up or really tell people what's going on and what they're feeling. And my friend did inquire if I was in therapy, and I said I was. And that's when my friend suggested, okay, you need to make an emergency appointment, which was very helpful because I didn't know that I could do that. And when I called my therapist, I was able to get an appointment for within 48 hours. So that was really helpful. And again, thank God I do have friends that are open to speaking about mental health, take advantage of mental health treatments themselves, that they were able to make these suggestions to me for me to make an emergency appointment to go see my therapist.
Well, Jenny, kudos to you for number one, being in therapy. I believe so many of us everyone could benefit from therapy. So kudos to you for doing that. Kudos to you for seeking additional help and for not keeping the struggles to yourself. Because if you had done that, who knows where we would be today.
Exactly. And it was a very challenging decision to make. So I appreciate you acknowledging me for that.
Mm-hmm.
And as mentioned, you have to have those support systems. And if you don't, I don't know where I would be right now. And thankfully, I was able to get into my therapist, and that led to me voluntarily going to the hospital. And they did an assessment and suggested that I would benefit from staying there in their mental health services facility. And even though I was thinking of many other things like, do I have the PTO? We're always thinking about, can we take the time? I was thinking about, will my insurance cover this? All these things that I shouldn't have to be thinking about, but unfortunately.
And that's crazy because we're so much more important than it, Like your job will replace you in a hot second.
Yes.
If you were to, God forbid, not be here tomorrow. And the money will come. You could replace money. You could find ways to get money, but there's not another way to get another you.
Yes. And that's very important. And what we have to realize as individuals, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to pour into ourselves first.
Yes.
The best way to show up for others is by loving yourself. And in that moment, I was facing a challenging decision, but I had decided while they were checking my insurance and all of this, that despite what they said when they came back, I was going to stay. It was something that I needed. It was something I needed for me, whatever the consequences were regarding PTO or regarding affordability, I was just going to bite the bullet. And luckily, God honored me for that decision because I didn't have to pay to stay. It was seen by my insurance as a need, and so many people don't have that as well. So there are also so many barriers to access to care.
Yes.
Thankfully, I had that. So for others who don't, there's the suicide hotlines, there are free clinics, but use your resources, I would definitely say. In this case, my resource was my friendships and my therapist that led me to getting the care that I needed. So whatever your resources are around you, definitely take advantage of them.
Mm-hmm. And did you find your hospital stay helpful, or was it traumatizing?
It was so many things. It was an experience for sure. And I do thank God during that time, I did have many challenges. I did have many experiences. I had never stayed at a hospital in a mental health capacity before. I've never stayed in a hospital overnight prior to that, honestly, for anything. So it was, and that's another thing too, is hard for us as people of color. It's like, we seek care for physical. We don't really seek care for mental.
Yeah.
And so the same thing with the going to the therapy and going into the hospital and checking myself in because this is what I needed. It doesn't seem like the right intervention at first because you feel like, is this the best thing for me? Like, it's kind of like you challenge yourself, like, is this what I need? And for me personally, the experience is what I needed. It was overwhelming at times because there are people there with other different diagnoses, people who have, hallucinations and things like that, and other mental health challenges. And so it definitely was an experience. And at night, when you could hear people and they're having their experiences and their moments, I had to pray Psalm 23 every night to get myself to sleep. But I knew that whatever I was going through, God was going to carry me through. For me, a quote I love is like, if it doesn't go, it's not God. And once I decided to stay and they said they were going to pay for it, like, for me, that was like a you're passing go sign, and there were no barriers to the access. So I was confident that God was going to carry me through this no matter myself. And that time really gave me the opportunity to slow down, think, and to assess my life. And when I was coming out of the hospital, it made me realize what I needed to change in my life. And I set forth on that mission. And a huge piece of it is that piece of acknowledging I wasn't taking care of myself. So yes, I'm going to the gym, and yes, I'm going to therapy, but there were so many ways that I wasn't facing what was going on in my life, and so many ways that I wasn't taking the opportunity to do what I had done, take stock and think, what needs to change? What is serving me? What isn't serving me?
Yes.
How can I be better to me and for me?
Jenny, I just want to say that I'm so happy that you're here with us, that you're still here. I'm so inspired by you, and I'm so proud of you for seeking help, for going to treatment, to get treatment, and then coming out and applying what you learned. That's
Yes,
so important.
yes. Taking the time to make a plan when I came out and to execute it. And I did that. I addressed the concerns at home, and God blessed me tremendously in that area. He, completely re-energize the space in a way that I never thought would happen. And he did it in a way that I know only he could do it. So again, like I was saying, that opening doors, that passing go. So I was like, all right, praises to the Most High. Like, and when that particular situation happens, I did want to be there to support others in my home, but I didn't. I was like, I can still show up for those people, but I do need to show up for myself first.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the other piece of it was my job. I knew that I needed to change that. And so I began to pursue that. And when I did land a position that I was interested in and I was offered a role, that salary doubled the salary that I was previously making. Yes. So that's when God says he's going to give you double for your trouble. He can do that. And he did that for me. And it was phenomenal. And it continues to be in this role.
I just love like the way your thought pattern shifted from, a place of hopelessness to soon to create a plan for suicide to a place of hope and encouragement and inspiration to change. So I just see so much growth there. Look at you, girl.
Thank you. Because it was scary. I was on the brink of, I don't even know how to phrase it, destroying everything, really, like, destroying myself from being able to be a help to others by taking myself away. And, they say that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And truly nothing resonates more. The situations I was going through at that time, although I had been struggling with some of them for a very long time, they still weren't situations that couldn't change. But the problem is that's how you feel in those moments and in those situations. And you feel powerless because maybe you have tried to change your circumstances and nothing is successful. And you get so sad and so down and you feel lonely and you feel powerless. But something has to shift. And for me, the way my interventions worked and the path that had led me to go into the hospital, these were all the right interventions for me.
Mm,
And thankfully, I did already have positive coping mechanisms in place. They
mm,
just weren't doing justice when I was at the darkest and lowest points. And
yeah.
that's why I had to seek that intervention that was drastic enough for
Mm,
a hospital stay.
mm,
But for me, it worked. And thankfully, I'm here now, and
mm.
God kept me and carried me through that whole situation and has blessed me beyond measure on the other side of it.
Yeah. And I love that you said for you it worked. So that like reminds us that each person is different. So for some people it might be a hospital stay plus medication,
Mm-hmm.
or it might be something completely different. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to take it like at a case by case pace, you
Yes.
know. So even with that in mind, do you have any suggestions, advice, or resources for anyone who might be dealing with depression?
Absolutely. I would love to suggest for people to take the time to get to know yourself and take the time to feed your spirit, your soul, your mind, and your body. I would definitely say that one should have practices that positively feed those areas in their life.
Mm.
Therapy is one that is very helpful. There are websites like Therapy for Black Girls. That's a great resource in order to help find a therapist that looks like you. And if your therapist doesn't look like you and can relate to you, you can ask your therapist, how would you handle dealing with these type of experiences that I might be facing that you might necessarily not have experienced?
Mm.
And it's okay to interview the people that you're going to select to take care of you.
Mm.
So interviewing your physician, interviewing your therapist, anyone who's going to take care of you, to make sure that they're going to provide the level of service that you feel you need. I
Mm.
would also suggest a routine, an exercise routine, a way to feed your body and your spirit. Walking is the best. There are websites like Girl Trek. This is a book that my therapist suggested, Acts of Faith. It's
Oh, I love her. I love the author. She's on point.
Yeah, she is amazing. And I love this because it's a very short page that you read per day. It's like half a page. This is what it looks like, and you would just read one side. And it's very helpful for you to take the time out to think. It
Mm.
gives you a daily quote. Um, Very helpful, very useful. And I would say the practice of meditation as well, taking the time to sit and be still with yourself. I'm growing in my practice in meditation, and honestly and truly, I love it. That time to myself, to sit, to think, to clear my mind, to focus
To
on my
relax.
breath, to be present in the moment,
Yes.
it is everything for me. Um, and my number one favorite coping mechanism is journaling. I make sure to practice, and there are so many ways to journal, so many resources online, so many journaling prompts. Personally, I like to write before or after my meditation and then go into my prayer time. That's what works for me. But definitely, all of these resources can be very helpful. Finding groups of like-minded individuals. There are so many resources on social media for that, to find spiritual groups, prayer groups, exercise groups, what have you. You can find them for the support that you need. And
Mm.
I'll just say continue to explore positive coping mechanisms, things that make you feel good, things that help you learn about yourself, new skills, new hobbies, and smile more. Like, life is beautiful. It is a struggle
Yeah.
and it is a journey, and there are tough moments, but we are here. And
Mhm.
there's a plan for each of us, thankfully and prayerfully. And so love yourself more, smile more.
Oh, thank you for all your words of wisdom, Jenny. And just like you said, life is beautiful. I'm beautiful. You're beautiful. All the viewers are beautiful.
Yes,
The
all of us.
world needs you. Don't give up. Don't give up. If Jenny can overcome depression, so can you. So,
Absolutely. It may look different for you in your recovery, but you can come through on the other side. You can be happier and you can be even more blessed. When we overcome struggles in life, we are blessed with so many gems. The experience of overcoming, number one, to share with others. So thank you, Tribe2Village, for this platform and the opportunity to share. And you will overcome, you will get through. There are so many resources. There are suicide hotlines. There are people who are willing to listen to you if you do need a listening ear.
Yes, and Jenny also has a blog where you could read more about her experience with depression and other life experiences. So I'll make sure to include that in the description. And thank you so much for watching. Let's continue to elevate and grow together. And please like, comment, and share, and hit that notification button, and leave us a comment.